So I made a video about the horse stance and the sumo stance and how I choose to do a sumo stance over a horse stance or a shikodachi instead of I forget what the horse stance is called in Japanese. Um, but the thing about that is somebody made a comment saying that there is no sumo stance in kung fu or any kung fu style, they said. Um, so I'm going to show this is from Sifu Shiyan Li, who is a Shaolin monk who is like the Shaolin monastery is essentially the home of kung fu. Also Wudang Mountain, and there were some family styles of kung fu going on around the same time as well, but principally, or a lot of people feel Shaolin Temple is the birthplace of kung fu. That, like I say, there were other forms of kung fu going on at the same time, but between these two temples, Wudang and Shaolin Temple, most kung fu comes from that in some form. Even the family styles, a lot of the family styles originate from those temples as well. Um, and in this, I'm going to show you these pictures of Shifu Xian Li doing what he calls a horse stance. But you'll notice he's doing a sumo stance. Now, if you think this isn't a sumo stance, let me know. Um, there might be subtle differences. Again, there's going to be differences style to style in how they perform a stance. For instance, he's holding this horse stance very low, which is indicative of Shaolin Kung Fu. There's a fair amount of uh, Kung Fu styles that do very low stances. Um, Okinawan karate, for instance, likes to do much higher stances. I prefer the higher stances. They're much more combative, in my opinion. Being stuck really low it's much harder to move quickly from those, and it's much harder to transition from those stances. But on the other hand, and this is why I do actually practice very low stances, is that doing low stances gives you much more strength and conditioning for your legs, which adds to your kicking power, which adds to your ability to stay in a stance, especially a high stance. So so I think there's room for doing both low and high stances in your training, but when it comes to actual self-defense, I would typically focus on higher stances that are more combative. But anyways, I'm going to show these pictures, um, and you guys tell me. I want all the martial artists out there that see this video to tell me, is this a sumo stance or is this a horse stance? And again, like, a sumo stance is a horse stance, so he's not incorrect by calling it a horse stance. But um, but there is a difference. There are several types of horse stance. One of them is a sumo stance, and you tell me which type of horse stance he's doing, because as far as I'm concerned, it is a sumo stance. So to me, what makes it a sumo stance is that the toes are pointing in a 45-degree angle, whereas a normal horse stance, the feet or the toes are supposed to be pointing straight forward. This is what I was taught. If you guys think differently, let me know.